The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of crystal and metal that orbited the neutral world below. Inside, representatives from 7 species sat in their designated sections, celebrating 2,000 years without war. Ambassador Kyle Harrison stood at the human platform, his dark suit simple compared to the elaborate costumes of the other delegates. The Vrexians sat across from him. They looked like enormous insects with hard shells that gleamed under the chamber lights. Their leader, War Empress Jalkara, had 4 arms and eyes that never blinked. She watched everything with the cold focus of a predator. Kyle had been to these meetings many times before. Usually they discussed trade routes or mining rights. Sometimes they argued about which species had the best art or music. It was boring, peaceful work. He liked it that way. Today felt different. The Kelthar representative, Chancellor Voth, was speaking about crop yields on the outer colonies when Jalkara stood up. Her movement was sudden, violent. The entire chamber went silent. "Enough," she said. Her voice came through the translator as a harsh clicking sound. "I did not come here to discuss farming." Kyle noticed his assistant, Mira Chen, tense beside him. She was former military, though most people here didn't know that. Her hand moved slightly closer to her datapad. Kyle gave her a small shake of his head. "Not yet?" "War Empress," the Murnathi speaker said, their telepathic voice echoing in everyone's minds. "This is a peace summit. We gather to celebrate weakness," Jalkara interrupted. She turned in a slow circle, looking at each species. "For 2,000 years we have done nothing but talk. We have grown soft, pathetic." The Sorvan delegate, who lived in a tank of water, bubbled nervously. "The council has brought prosperity to all species. Why would we want war?" Jalkara's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Because prosperity without strength is an illusion. Because peace has made you forget what you are. Pray." Kyle remained perfectly still. He had read the intelligence reports. For the past decade, the Vrexian Empire had been building ships in the dark spaces between stars. Thousands of them. His people had watched and waited, wondering when Jalkara would make her move. Now they knew. "The Vrexian Empire declares an end to the Council's authority," Jalkara announced. "We will take what we want, starting with your worlds, your resources, your people." She pointed one sharp claw at the Kelthar. "You were once warriors. Now you wear decorative armor and play at being soldiers." She pointed at the Sorvan. "You trade and negotiate, but you cannot fight." Her claw swept across the other species. "None of you can." "This is madness," Chancellor Voth said, standing. "We outnumber you." The council can do nothing," Jalkara said. "I have 3,000 warships waiting at your borders. Your fleets are ceremonial. Your weapons are old. Your soldiers have never seen real combat." She spread her 4 arms wide. "We give you one choice. Surrender now or be destroyed." The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted at each other. Some called for negotiations. Others demanded sanctions. The Halcyon representative, a being made of living crystal, tried to restore order with its calm, mathematical voice. Nothing worked. Kyle noticed that Jalkara was looking at him now. The human section had been quiet. Too quiet. "And what about you, Ambassador Harrison?" she asked. "Does humanity tremble with the others? Or will you beg for mercy first?" Kyle stood slowly. He was not a tall man, especially compared to most species here. But when he stood, the chamber went quiet. There was something in the way he moved that made others pay attention. "War Empress," he said, his voice calm and even. "I have a question for you." Jalkara tilted her head. "Ask." "In the past 2,000 years, how many wars has the Vrexian Empire fought?" "None," she said proudly. "We were bound by council law." "And before that?" "How long since your last real war?" Jalkara paused. 700 years before the council formed. "But we remember. Our instincts are strong. We are born warriors." Kyle nodded slowly. Then he smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it made several delegates lean forward in their seats. "You assume the other species forgot how to fight because they stopped fighting?" Kyle said. "That is your first mistake." "Explain," Jalkara demanded. "My people have a saying," Kyle continued. "The most dangerous person in a room is the one who has nothing to prove." He walked to the edge of his platform. "You think peace made the galaxy weak? You see farmers and traders and artists. You think they cannot fight." "They cannot," Jalkara said. "Maybe," Kyle agreed. "But you made a much bigger mistake than that." "What mistake?" "You assumed the same about humanity. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the delegates who had been panicking stopped to listen. Kyle's smile grew slightly. War Empress, let me tell you about my species. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. Predators hunted us. Diseases plagued us. Weather could destroy entire communities. We had nothing, no claws, no shells, no venom. Just our minds and our ability to work together. What is your point? Shalkara asked. My point is that we learned to fight everything. We learned to win against impossible odds. We learned to survive when we should have died. Kyle's voice remained calm, but something had changed in it. Something cold. And then when we reached the stars, we fought each other. For thousands of years. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. Then you are warriors like us, Shalkara said. No, Kyle said quietly. We are worse. Because we learned something you never did. We learned when to stop. Mira Chen had activated her datapad. Information was streaming across it. Deployment orders, fleet positions, things that had been hidden for centuries. When humanity joined the council, we made a choice, Kyle said. We chose peace. Not because we were weak. Not because we forgot how to fight. We chose peace because we remembered exactly how terrible war could be. He looked directly at Shalkara. You have made a grave miscalculation, War Empress. You assume peace made us weak. You will soon learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. Is that a threat? Shalkara demanded. No, Kyle said. It's a warning. Turn your ships around. Go home, forget this invasion. Because if you attack human space, you will discover something we have kept hidden for 2,000 years. And what is that? Kyle's smile disappeared completely. His face became stone. You will discover that we never stopped being ready for this day. We hoped it would never come. We prayed it wouldn't, but we prepared for it anyway. He turned to address the entire chamber. Humanity spent 2,000 years building, training, and waiting. We became your artists and philosophers and mediators, but we never forgot what we were before. You expect me to fear you? Shalkara asked. No, Kyle said. I expect you to attack us first. You're too proud to back down now. But when you do, remember this moment. Remember that we tried to warn you. The chamber erupted again, but Kyle was already walking toward the exit. Mira followed him, her datapad glowing with military orders. Behind them, Shalkara gave the command. The invasion would begin in 3 days. Kyle walked faster, his face grim. He had tried. Now there was only one thing left to do. It was time to remind the galaxy what humanity had been trying to forget for 2,000 years. It was time for war. Kyle Harrison's ship touched down in Geneva just as the sun was setting. He had not slept during the journey from the council chambers, and he would not sleep tonight either. There was too much to do. Mira walked beside him as they entered the old United Nations building. To most people, this was a museum now, a monument to Earth's history. But Kyle and Mira walked past the tourist areas, past the guards who nodded at them, and down into levels that did not exist on any public map. The elevator descended for 3 minutes. When the doors opened, Kyle stepped into a room larger than any building on the surface. Screens covered every wall, showing maps of human space, ships, colonies, resources, all of it glowing with data that had been collected for centuries. General Lisa Grant stood at the center of the room. She was a tall woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had been a soldier for 60 years, and it showed in the way she stood, the way she watched everything. When she saw Kyle, she nodded once. It's starting, Kyle said. It was not a question. Yes, Lisa replied. The Vrexian fleet left their staging area an hour ago. They are heading for Threshold's Edge. They will arrive in 72 hours. And our people? Already moving. Lisa walked to a large screen that showed the human colonies. Each one had a status indicator beside it. All of them were turning from green to yellow to red. Red meant ready for war. Admiral Ben Rodriguez is taking the fleet to meet them. Captain Emma Stone is in command of the forward group. Kyle allowed himself a small breath of relief. Emma was one of their best. If anyone could handle the first contact, it was her. What about the colonies, he asked. See for yourself, Lisa said. She touched a control, and the screen changed to show a live feed from a place called New Haven. New Haven was a farming colony on the edge of human space. Wide fields of grain stretched under an orange sky. Children played near a schoolhouse. It looked peaceful, safe. It was supposed to look that way. The camera focused on a woman walking out of the school. Her name was Amy Peterson, and she was the teacher there. Kyle had met her once years ago during an inspection tour. She had a kind face and spoke gently to her students. Now she was speaking into a communicator, her voice calm and clear. "Attention all citizens, Protocol 7 is now active. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." The change happened fast. The children stopped playing and walked quickly toward their parents. The farmers left their fields and moved toward collection points. Nobody ran. Nobody panicked. They had practiced this 1,000 times. Amy walked to what looked like a simple storage building. She pressed her hand against a panel, and the wall slid open. Inside was armor, weapons, and equipment that would make a military commander jealous. She began putting on the armor with practiced efficiency. "How long until New Haven is ready?" Kyle asked. 40 minutes, Lisa said. "Every colony is the same. We built them this way from the beginning. Farms that can become fortresses, schools that can become command centers, civilian buildings that hide enough firepower to defend against anything." Kyle watched as more feeds appeared on the screen. Other colonies, other worlds, all of them activating defense systems that had been hidden for generations. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Show me the ships," he said. The screen changed again. This time it showed a cargo hauler in orbit around a mining station. The hauler looked old and slow, the kind of ship that moved supplies between worlds. Boring. Harmless. A man named Ryan Park stood on the bridge. He was young, maybe 30, with the relaxed attitude of someone who had spent his life working with machines. He was drinking coffee and watching the stars. "Ryan, you're cleared for conversion," a voice said over his communicator. Ryan put down his coffee. "Finally," he said, grinning. "I have been waiting 2 years for this." He pressed a series of commands into his console. The cargo hauler began to change. Panels on the hull slid apart. Hidden compartments opened. The ship that had looked like a slow transport revealed weapons that had been concealed in its structure. Missile bays, railguns, shield generators that were far more powerful than any civilian ship should have. Within 6 hours, the cargo hauler would become a warship. It would join 200 others just like it. "The civilian ships," Kyle said quietly. "All of them?" "All of them," Lisa confirmed. "Every ship that left Earth for the past 2,000 years was built with dual purpose. We never lied about it, not technically. We just never told anyone what they could really do." Admiral Ben Rodriguez appeared on one of the screens. He was on the bridge of his flagship, a massive vessel that had been registered as an exploration ship. His face was hard, his eyes focused. He looked like a man who had been waiting for this moment his entire life. "General Grant," he said, "the fleet is ready. 250 ships at Threshold's edge, another 1,000 moving into position throughout human space. We can be anywhere in the sector within 48 hours. "Good," Lisa said. "Rules of engagement? Protect the colonies. Defend the borders. If they want to fight, we give them one they will never forget." Ben's expression darkened. "But we do it clean. No war crimes, no atrocities. We show them that humans can be warriors without being monsters." Lisa nodded. "Approved. Good hunting, Admiral." The screen went dark. Kyle turned to Lisa. "Did we make a mistake?" he asked quietly. "Hiding all of this, letting the galaxy think we were harmless." Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "We gave them 2,000 years of peace. Real peace. They had art, trade, exploration, everything good about civilization. We could have conquered them at any time. We had the ships, the weapons, the training. But we chose not to. Because we remember what war costs," Kyle said. "Yes." Lisa pulled up another screen. This one showed old videos from Earth's history. Wars that had killed millions, cities destroyed, children crying in the ruins. "We did this to ourselves for thousands of years. We know what it looks like, what it feels like. So when we reached the stars and found other species, we made a choice. We would be the guardians, the ones who remembered, the ones who stayed ready so others could sleep safely. Kyle watched the old videos. He had seen them before, many times. Every human child learned this history. It was required. They learned about the wars, the weapons, the terrible things humans had done to each other. But they also learned about the peace that came after, the choice to be better. The Vrexians think peace made us weak, Kyle said. Let them think that for 2 more days, Lisa replied. Then Captain Stone will teach them the truth. Kyle nodded. He looked at the screens showing all of human space. Hundreds of colonies activating. Thousands of ships preparing. Millions of people putting on armor they had hoped never to wear. All of it happening smoothly, efficiently, because they had never stopped being ready. What about the other species? Kyle asked. The Council. Are they going to help? Lisa shook her head. They cannot. The Keltar admitted their military is just for ceremonies now. Real soldiers retired generations ago. The Sorvan have trading ships, not warships. The others are the same. 2,000 years of peace, and they forgot how to defend themselves. Then we fight alone. We always knew we might have to. Lisa touched another control, and the screens showed the Vrexian fleet moving toward human space. 3,000 ships, all of them built for war. It should have been terrifying. Instead, Kyle felt something else. Determination, readiness. They're going to attack Threshold's Edge first, Lisa said. They think it will be an easy victory, a way to scare the other colonies into surrendering. And Captain Stone? Lisa smiled for the first time. It was not a kind smile. Captain Stone is going to show them that humans do not scare easily. Kyle looked at the screens one more time. He thought about all the people activating defense systems, all the soldiers putting on armor, all the ships converting from civilian to military. 2,000 years of preparation. 2,000 years of hoping this day would never come. But it had come, and humanity was ready. I should address the people, Kyle said. They deserve to know what is happening. Already done, Lisa said. She showed him another screen. The news networks across human space were broadcasting the same message. It was simple and direct. The Vrexians were coming. Humanity would defend itself. Everyone should remain calm and follow Protocol 7. The people were not panicking. They were doing exactly what they had been trained to do. Because every human, from the moment they were born, had learned the truth. Peace was a choice. War was always possible, and humanity would never be unprepared again. Kyle watched the feeds for another moment. Then he turned to leave. He had to get to Threshold's Edge. He wanted to be there when the Vrexians arrived. He wanted to see their faces when they realized their mistake. Behind him, General Lisa Grant continued coordinating the defense. Admiral Ben Rodriguez positioned his fleet. Amy Peterson finished putting on her armor and began directing her militia. Ryan Park completed his ship's conversion and joined the battle group. Across human space, 2,000 years of peace ended, and humanity smiled as they remembered what they had always been: survivors, fighters, protectors. The Vrexians were about to learn a very hard lesson. Captain Emma Stone stood on the bridge of the EFS Defiance and watched the Vrexian fleet approach. 3,000 ships, all of them larger than hers, all of them built for one purpose: war. They moved in a formation that looked like a spear aimed at the heart of human space. Emma was 45 years old and had been in the military her entire adult life. She had trained for combat scenarios that would never happen. She had studied battles that ended centuries ago. She had practiced fighting an enemy that everyone said would never come. Now they were here, and she felt strangely calm. "They are hailing us," her communications officer said. His name was Jake Morrison, and he was young enough to be her son. He looked nervous but ready. "Put them on," Emma said. The screen flickered and a Vrexian face appeared. It was High Commander Varth, leader of the First Fleet. His mandibles clicked as he studied Emma's ship with what looked like amusement. "Human vessel," Varth said through the translator. "You are blocking our path. Move aside or be destroyed." Emma leaned back in her chair. I am Captain Emma Stone of the Earth Federation ship Defiance. You are entering human territory without permission. Turn around and leave." Varth made a sound that might have been laughter. "I see one ship. One small old research vessel. My fleet has 3,000 warships. Do you really think you can stop us?" "I see you did your homework," Emma said. "The Defiance is registered as an archaeological research ship. We have explored dead worlds and studied ancient ruins for the past century. Then you should understand the concept of extinction," Varth said. "Move aside or join the ruins you study." Emma smiled. It was a cold smile, the kind that made her crew lean forward in anticipation. "Hi, Commander, I have a question. In all your research on humanity, did you ever wonder why we only sent researchers and diplomats to meet you? Why you never saw our military?" Varth paused. "You had no military. You became soft during the long peace." "No," Emma said. "We just never showed you our teeth." She nodded to Jake. "Light us up." The Defiance changed. The hull panels that made it look like an old research ship slid apart. Weapons emerged from hidden compartments. Shield generators activated, creating a blue glow around the vessel. Sensor arrays extended, giving the ship eyes that could see everything in the system. The transformation took 30 seconds. When it was done, the Defiance looked nothing like a research ship. It looked like a predator. "What?" Varth started to say. "Every ship you see here has the same trick," Emma interrupted. Around the Defiance, 249 other human vessels revealed their true nature. Cargo haulers became destroyers. Mining ships became cruisers. Even small shuttlecraft showed weapons that could tear through armor. The Vrexian fleet sensors started screaming warnings. Their tactical computers were trying to recalculate the threat level and failing. The humans had more firepower than should have been possible. "Hi, Commander," Emma said, her voice friendly now. "You made a mistake. You thought we were prey, but we are from Earth. Everything on our world tried to kill us and we survived. We did not survive by being weak. You cannot defeat 3,000 ships," Varth said, but his voice had changed. He sounded uncertain now. "Maybe not," Emma agreed. "But let me tell you what will happen if you attack. First, we will destroy your forward scouts. They are already in range of our long-range missiles. Second, we will target your command ships. We know which ones they are. We have been watching you build this fleet for 10 years. Third, we will disable your supply vessels. Without supplies, your fleet cannot sustain a long battle." She paused, letting that sink in. "And if you somehow get past us, there are 1,000 more ships waiting at the next system. And 1,000 after that. Every colony you try to invade has defenses that can hold out for months. Every asteroid field has hidden weapons platforms. Every space station can fight back." "You are bluffing," Varth said. "Am I?" Emma asked. "Admiral Rodriguez, if you would." Another screen appeared, showing Admiral Ben Rodriguez on the bridge of his flagship. Behind him, the main fleet was visible. Hundreds of ships, all of them massive, all of them bristling with weapons. "Hi, Commander Varth," Ben said, his voice hard as stone. "I am Admiral Ben Rodriguez. I am 60 years old. I have been training for this battle since I was 18. Every person on every ship in this fleet has been training their whole lives. We are ready. The question is, are you?" The Vrexian fleet slowed. Emma could see them trying to decide what to do. Attack and risk massive losses? Retreat and admit weakness? It was not an easy choice. High Commander Varth made the wrong choice. "All ships," he commanded. "Attack formation. Destroy them." The Vrexian fleet surged forward. Emma took a deep breath. "Well, we tried." "Jake, weapons free. All ships engage at will." What happened next would be studied for centuries. The human fleet moved with precision that seemed impossible. Ships that should have been slow and clumsy danced through space like fighters. They had been designed this way, built for war but disguised as civilian vessels. Now they showed what they could really do. The Defiance fired first. Missiles streaked toward the Vrexian forward scouts. The missiles were not standard weapons. They were smart, able to adjust their course, avoid countermeasures, and strike exactly where armor was weakest. 6 Vrexian ships exploded in the first 10 seconds. Jake whooped from his station. "Direct hits! Their shields did not even slow us down." "Stay focused," Emma said, but she was smiling. Around them, the rest of the fleet opened fire. The space between the two forces filled with weapons fire, explosions, and debris. The Vrexians returned fire, and Emma's smile faded. Their weapons were powerful, and they had numbers on their side. Several human ships took damage. One destroyer lost its engines and began to drift. Another cruiser's shields collapsed under sustained fire. "Helm, evasive pattern 7, Emma commanded. "Jake, target that command carrier. The big one in the center." "Locked," Jake said. Firing. The Defiance's main cannon charged and released. The bolt of energy crossed the distance in an instant and struck the Vrexian command carrier's bridge. The ship's entire front section exploded and it began to list to one side. High Commander Varth's face appeared on the screen again. He was no longer on the command carrier. He must have transferred to another ship. His expression had changed from confident to shocked. "What are you?" he demanded. "You were supposed to be archaeologists." "Scientists." "Peaceful." "We are peaceful," Emma said as she directed her ship to dodge incoming fire. "We chose peace. For 2,000 years we chose it. We built museums instead of monuments to war. We wrote poetry instead of battle hymns. We taught our children to think before they fought." Another volley of missiles launched from the Defiance. More Vrexian ships took damage. "But we never forgot how to fight," Emma continued. "We never forgot where we came from. We remembered the wars that almost destroyed us. We remembered the weapons that could end everything. And we decided that if war ever came again, we would be ready." The battle raged on. Human ships moved in coordinated groups, supporting each other, covering weaknesses, exploiting opportunities. The Vrexians fought bravely, but they were confused. Nothing was going according to their plan. The humans were too fast, too organized, too deadly. After 2 hours, the Vrexian fleet began to break. Ships started retreating, jumping away to safety. High Commander Varth tried to rally them, but fear had taken hold. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they found an enemy that had been preparing for this fight for generations. Emma watched as more Vrexian ships fled. She did not pursue. Let them go. Let them tell their empire what happened here. When the battle ended, over 800 Vrexian ships had been destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost 42 vessels and another 60 were damaged. It was a costly victory, but it was a victory. Emma stood up from her chair. Her hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. She looked at her crew. Some of them were crying. Others were cheering. All of them looked exhausted. "Good work," she said quietly. "All of you. You did exactly what you were trained to do." Jake looked up from his console. "Captain, we are receiving messages from the other species. The Keltar, the Sorvan, all of them." They watched the battle. "They are asking how we did this, how we were ready." Emma sat back down. "Tell them the truth. Tell them we never forgot. Tell them we chose peace, but we never stopped being able to fight." A message came in from Admiral Rodriguez. "Captain Stone, well done. The main Vrexian fleet is pulling back. They are regrouping, but they will not attack again today." "What are our orders?" Emma asked. "Hold position. Repair what you can, and get ready." This was just the first battle. "There will be more," Emma nodded. She looked out at the stars, at the debris field where the battle had taken place, at the damaged ships limping back to safety. This was what humanity had tried to avoid for 2,000 years. This waste, this destruction. But now that it had started, humanity would finish it. On the other side of the system, High Commander Varth sat in his new command ship and stared at the reports. The humans had been hiding their true strength all along. They had weapons that could match Vrexian technology, ships that could outmaneuver his fleet, and most terrifying of all, soldiers who fought with the calm efficiency of people who had never stopped training for war. Dr. Sophie Lin had been studying old databases for 3 weeks when she found something impossible. She sat in her office at the University of New Tokyo, surrounded by screens showing data that went back thousands of years. Outside her window, the city continued its normal routine, but Sophie barely noticed. She was too focused on what she had discovered. It started with a simple question. Why had the galaxy been at peace for exactly 2,000 years? Not 1,900 years or 2,100 years. Exactly 2,000. That kind of precision was unusual in history. Wars did not start and stop on schedule. So Sophie had started digging through old records. Trade agreements, military reports, even personal journals from the early days of the Council. What she found made her hands shake as she typed. "Computer," she said, "show me the aggression index for all Council species from year 1 to present." A graph appeared on her main screen. It showed 7 lines, one for each species in the Council. The lines measured violent incidents, military buildups, and conflicts over time. For thousands of years before the Council, the lines jumped up and down wildly. Wars started. Peace happened. Wars started again. It was the normal pattern of civilization. Then, exactly 2,000 years ago, all the lines dropped to nearly zero. All of them except one. The human line stayed exactly where it had always been. Not high, not low. Just steady, unchanged. Sophie stared at the graph. It was impossible. Species did not all change at the same time unless something made them change. She needed more data. She pulled up medical records next. The Keltar had been warriors before the Council. Proud, aggressive, always ready for a fight. Then 2,000 years ago they became peaceful. Their own historians called it the Great Awakening. They said their people had simply evolved beyond the need for war. But Sophie found something else in their medical records. Brain scans from before the Council and after. The neural patterns were different. Something had changed in the part of the brain that controlled aggression and fear. The change happened over the course of just 50 years. Far too fast to be natural evolution. She checked the Sorvon records. Same thing. The Murnathi. The Draknor. All of them showed the same neural changes starting 2,000 years ago, all except humans. Sophie's communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador Kyle Harrison calling from Earth. "Dr. Lin," he said when she answered. "I heard you have been asking questions about pre-council history." "Yes," Sophie said. "And I found something disturbing." "Can we talk privately?" "I am in a secured facility," Kyle replied. "Go ahead." Sophie took a deep breath. "I think someone has been manipulating the other species. I think something or someone changed their brains to make them less aggressive. And I think it has been happening for 2,000 years. There was a long silence. Then Kyle said, "Keep going." "The patterns are too consistent," Sophie explained. "Every species except humanity showed the same neural changes at the same time. The chances of that happening naturally are basically zero." She pulled up more data on her screen, and there is something else. 3 years ago, there was a small spike in aggression levels across the galaxy. Nothing major, but it was there. Ships started having more disputes. Colonies argued more over borders. It was subtle, but it was real. "And then the Vrexians declared war," Kyle said. "Exactly." Sophie sent him the data. "I think whatever was suppressing aggression started to fail 3 years ago. The Vrexians were affected least because their hive mind structure made them partially resistant. They started remembering how to be warriors again, but the other species did not. They are still suppressed." Kyle was quiet for a moment. "Do you know who did this?" "I have a theory," Sophie said. "The Halcyons joined the Council exactly 2,000 years ago. They are the most technologically advanced species we know, and they have always been the ones pushing hardest for peace and cooperation." "The Halcyons," Kyle repeated. "You think they did this to create peace?" "I think they did it because they thought it was the right thing to do," Sophie said. "But it was still wrong. They took away everyone's choice." Kyle sighed. "Send me everything you have. I need to bring this to the Council." "What about humanity?" Sophie asked. "Why were we not affected?" "That," Kyle said, "is something I can actually answer. We discovered the Halcyon influence about 50 years after joining the Council. Our neural patterns are too chaotic, too diverse. Their technology could not make all humans peaceful at once. It might work on some individuals, but not the whole species. So we knew," Sophie said. "We knew for centuries." "Yes. And we kept it secret because the other species were happy. They had peace. They had prosperity. Who were we to take that away from them?" Kyle's voice was heavy. "But we also knew it could not last forever. Nothing built on a lie ever does. So we prepared," Sophie understood now. "The hidden weapons, the secret military, the constant training. Humanity had been waiting for the day when the artificial peace would break, when the galaxy would remember what war was like. And they had made sure that when that day came, they would be ready to protect everyone." "I am calling an emergency council session," Kyle said. "You need to present your findings. Everyone deserves to know the truth." 2 days later, Sophie stood in the council chamber and showed her evidence to representatives from all 7 species. The room was silent as she explained what she had found. The neural changes, the timing, the impossible consistency. When she finished, she looked at the Halcyon representative. Unit Prime 7 was a being made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. It did not have a face, but Sophie could sense something like shame in the way its light dimmed when she pointed at it. "Is this true?" Chancellor Voth demanded. The Keltar representative stood up, his scales bristling. "Did you change us?" Take away our ability to choose? Unit Prime 7's light pulsed slowly. When it spoke, its voice was like music, sad and regretful. Yes, we did this. 2,000 years ago, the galaxy was tearing itself apart. War after war. Species going extinct. We had the technology to help. We thought we could create peace, no one by making us docile, Voth shouted. By turning us into children who could not defend themselves? We believed peace was worth any price, Unit Prime 7 said. We were wrong. We see that now. The Sorvan representative, floating in its water tank, spoke quietly.
How long have the humans known?
All eyes turned to Kyle Harrison. He stood slowly, meeting each gaze without flinching. We discovered the influence 1950 years ago, he admitted. We were immune due to our neural diversity, but we said nothing because you were all happy. You had prosperity. You had art and culture and exploration. You had peace. You should have told us, the Mernathy speaker said, their telepathic voice filled with hurt. You should have given us the choice. You are right, Kyle said simply. We should have. We told ourselves we were protecting you, that you deserved your peace. But the truth is we were also protecting ourselves. We were afraid that if you knew, you would hate us. Or worse, you would become aggressive again and we would have to fight you. He looked at each representative. But we also prepared. We knew the artificial peace could not last. We knew that someday someone would remember what war was, and we made sure that when that day came, humanity would be strong enough to defend not just ourselves, but all of you. The Draknor representative, a tall avian being with bright feathers, spoke for the first time. You made yourselves into guardians. Without asking if we wanted guardians? Yes, Kyle agreed. And that was wrong too. We took away your right to defend yourselves. We let you think you were peaceful by nature, when really you were peaceful because someone else made you that way. Unit Prime 7 pulsed brightly. What we did was worse. We changed you without permission. We thought we were saving the galaxy, but we only delayed the inevitable. When our technology began to fail 3 years ago, we could not fix it. The influence faded, and the Vrexians remembered what they were. While the rest of us did not, Voth said bitterly. The Keltar were warriors once, proud and strong. Now our soldiers cannot even hold a weapon without shaking. You took that from us. We are truly sorry, Unit Prime 7 said. If we could undo what we did, we would. But the neural changes are permanent. We cannot restore what you lost. The chamber fell silent. Sophie watched as each species processed what they had learned. Some looked angry. Others looked lost. All of them had just discovered that their entire civilization was built on a lie. Finally, Kyle spoke again. We have a choice to make. We can spend our time arguing about the past, or we can focus on the future. The Vrexians are still out there. They are regrouping. They will attack again, and when they do, we need to be ready. How can we be ready? Voth asked. You said it yourself. We forgot how to fight. Our weapons are old. Our soldiers are not real soldiers. The Vrexians will destroy us. Not if we help you, Kyle said. He looked around the chamber. Humanity offers our protection. We will defend your worlds until you can learn to defend yourselves again. And we will teach you. We will share everything we know about warfare, about defense, about survival. Why? The Sorvan representative asked. Why would you help us after we let the Halcyons manipulate us? After we left you alone to remember what war was? Kyle smiled, and it was a sad smile. Because that is what... 6 months after the first battle, Admiral Ben Rodriguez stood on the deck of a Vrexian ship and waited for War Empress Jalkara to arrive. The war was not officially over, but both sides had agreed to meet. That was progress. The Vrexian fleet had tried 3 more times to invade human territory. Each time they were pushed back with heavy losses. Human forces had not pursued them into Vrexian space. They had simply held the line, defended the colonies, and waited. Eventually, even Jalkara had to admit that victory was impossible. The door opened and the War Empress entered. She looked different than Ben remembered from the recordings. Older, tired. Her shell had cracks that had not been repaired. Her movements were slower. War had aged her. Admiral Rodriguez, she said through the translator, you came alone. You asked me to, Ben replied. He was alone except for 2 guards, both unarmed. This meeting place was neutral territory, arranged through channels that took weeks to establish. I assume you have a reason? Jalkara sat down across from him. It was strange to see a Vrexian sit. They usually stood, always ready for battle. I want to know why you did not destroy us. You could have. After the third battle, my fleet was broken. You could have followed us home and ended the Vrexian Empire. Why did you not? Ben considered his answer carefully. Because destruction was never our goal. We defended ourselves. We protected our allies. But we did not want genocide. We just wanted you to stop attacking. I do not understand, Jalkara said. You are warriors. I saw your battles. You are better at war than we are. Why show mercy? Because we remember what happens when warriors do not show mercy, Ben said. My species nearly destroyed itself several times. We killed billions of our own people in wars that solved nothing. We learned that winning a war is easy compared to winning the peace that comes after. Jalkara was silent for a long moment. My people are starving. Our worlds were built for war. We spent everything on the fleet. Now that the fleet is gone, we have nothing. We are dying. Ben had known this was coming. Intelligence reports showed that the Vrexian Empire was collapsing. What are you asking for? Help, Jalkara said simply. I know we do not deserve it. We invaded your space. We tried to kill you. But my people are dying and I will do anything to save them. Even beg. Ben pulled out a data pad and placed it on the table. This is a humanitarian aid package. Food, medicine, and supplies. Enough to feed your people for 6 months. It is yours. No conditions attached. Jalkara stared at the data pad. Why? Because your people did not choose this war. You did, your military did. But the civilians, the workers, the children, they are innocent. Humanity does not punish the innocent. Ben leaned forward. But I have a second offer. One with conditions. Name them. We will help you rebuild. We will teach you how to create an economy that does not depend on conquest. We will show you how to feed your people without taking from others. Ben paused. But in return, you must allow human military advisors to train your soldiers. Not to control them. To teach them. Teach us what? Jalkara asked. You have already proven you are better warriors. To teach you the difference between being a warrior and being a soldier, Ben said. Warriors fight because they must. Soldiers defend because they choose to. We will teach you strategy, yes. But also honor, restraint. How to protect instead of conquer. Jalkara looked at him for a long time. If I accept this, my people will say I have surrendered. Then let them say it, Ben replied. Your people are alive because you are wise enough to stop fighting a war you cannot win. That is not surrender. That is leadership. The War Empress made a clicking sound that might have been a laugh. You are very strange, Admiral. You win, but you do not act like victors. That is because we learned something important, Ben said. The goal is not to have defeated enemies. The goal is to have no enemies at all. 3 weeks later, the first human supply ships arrived at Vrexian worlds. They brought food, medicine, and engineers who could help restore infrastructure. The Vrexians were suspicious at first. Some refused the help, claiming it was a trick. But hunger was a powerful motivator, and slowly, they accepted. Among the supply ships was one carrying Captain Emma Stone. She had volunteered to lead the humanitarian mission, much to the surprise of her crew. Captain, Jake Morrison said as they prepared to land on a Vrexian colony world. Are you sure about this? These people tried to kill us 6 months ago. Emma looked out at the planet below. She could see the scars of war on its surface. Cities damaged by fighting. Farmland burned. That is exactly why we need to help them, she said. If we leave them broken and angry, they will attack again in a generation. But if we help them rebuild, if we show them there is another way, maybe we can end this cycle. The ship landed in what had been a military base. Now it was a refugee center, full of Vrexians who had nowhere else to go. Emma walked down the ramp with her crew, all of them wearing armor but carrying supplies instead of weapons. A young Vrexian approached her. He was smaller than most of his species, probably not yet fully grown. You are human, he said in surprisingly good English. I am, Emma replied. My name is Emma, what is yours? Krath, the young Vrexian said. Why are you here? We fought you, we lost. Why help us? Emma knelt down so she was eye level with him. Because you are a child, and children should not suffer for the mistakes of adults. We brought food, medicine, and people who can teach you how to grow your own food. Will you help us distribute it? Krath looked uncertain, but he nodded. For the next several hours, he worked alongside Emma and her crew, carrying supplies to families who needed them. Emma watched him carefully. He was smart, quick to learn, and genuinely wanted to help his people. She made a note to herself. This one had potential. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Lisa Grant was overseeing a very different project. The Galactic Defense Academy had opened its doors 3 months ago. The building was enormous, capable of housing thousands of students from different species. The curriculum included everything from basic tactics to advanced strategy, from weapons training to ethical decision-making. The first class consisted of volunteers from every council species. Keltar, who wanted to remember what their ancestors had been, Sorvan, who wanted to protect their trading routes, Mirnathi, who wanted to defend their telepathic networks. Even a few Vrexians had applied, sent by Jalkara as a gesture of good faith. Lisa walked through the training grounds, watching instructors work with students who could barely hold a weapon. It was frustrating work. These species had forgotten so much, but the instructors were patient, breaking down each skill into simple steps, building confidence slowly. One instructor, a woman named Rachel Martinez, was teaching a group of Keltar how to use their natural advantages in combat. "You have scales that can deflect small arms fire," she said. "That is armor. You have claws that can tear through metal. Those are weapons. Stop trying to fight like humans. Fight like Keltar." The students practiced, their movements awkward at first, then becoming more natural. Lisa smiled. They were learning. Slowly, but they were learning. In another part of the galaxy, Amy Peterson was doing similar work on New Haven. Her colony had become a training center for civilian defense. Colonists from other species came to learn how to turn their peaceful settlements into defensible positions, how to organize militias, how to protect their families without becoming professional soldiers. Amy stood in front of a classroom full of Sorvan civilians. They looked uncomfortable out of their water tanks, wearing environment suits that let them breathe air for short periods. "You are not soldiers," Amy told them. "You do not need to be, but you need to be able to defend your homes until help arrives. That is what we are going to teach you." Over the next weeks, she showed them how to set up early warning systems, how to reinforce buildings, how to create safe rooms where children could hide during attacks. Simple things, but effective. The Sorvan listened carefully, taking notes, asking questions. One of them, an older trader named Vosh, approached Amy after class. "This is very different from what we expected. We thought military training would be about killing." "Killing is easy," Amy said. "Any fool can destroy. What is hard is protecting, saving lives. That is what we teach." Back on Earth, Dr. Sophie Lin was working on a different kind of project. She had been asked to write the official history of the past 6 months. Not propaganda, but the truth. What had happened. Why it had happened. What it meant for the future. She interviewed people from all sides. Human soldiers who had fought in the battles. Vrexian civilians who had suffered during the war. Council members who had discovered their peace was artificial. Each story was different, but they all pointed to the same conclusion. The galaxy had been given a gift of peace, but it was a false gift. Real peace had to be chosen, had to be defended, had to be valued enough to fight for it. Sophie finished her history and submitted it to the council. They approved it immediately and made it required reading for every student in the galaxy. The title was simple: The Day We Remembered. 1 year after the war began, Ambassador Kyle Harrison stood in the council chamber again. This time he was not alone. Representatives from all species were present, including a new face. Krath, the young Vrexian,